Hello, I am Max Cohn. I'm the festival director of the NYC Student Film Festival, and I am joined here by the immensely talented John DeMarsico. He is the Mets director of the Mets programs on SNY, and I just want to turn it over to you, John. First of all, hi, hello, and tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up becoming the director of the Mets games.
Sure. Yeah. Like you said, I'm the television broadcast director for all the live New York Mets games on SNY and Pix 11. Um, I didn't study television in school. I actually studied film in school, which kind of probably led us to our meeting today. Grew up a diehard Mets fan. Um, Went to school at North Carolina State, who had a film studies program. Studied film there. Ended up applying for an internship at SNY in the summer of 2009. I didn't know what I wanted to do with SNY. I actually think I applied for a random like social media internship because it was the only one left. And whatever social media looked like in 2009, it wasn't what it is today. Um, and then that internship ended up being taken up, but they handed my resume off to the remote operations department at SNY, who had a bigger internship program and could maybe take one more guy. And so I ended up in remote operations, but I had no idea what that meant. But what that internship entailed was every day I would be going to the New York Mets television remote truck at Citi Field. This was the first year at Citi Field, 2009. Um, and From the moment that I walked into that television truck and kind of saw how the sausage was made, I fell in love. I knew that I was in the right place. It was as if, it were ordained that I end up in this internship in in this remote operations, which I didn't even know what it was. And I got to watch the great Bill Webb, who was SNY's first lead director and uh, television broadcast Hall of Famer, and do do a job that I didn't know existed, which is direct a baseball game. And I saw instantly, if not instantly, pretty soon after my first time going into the truck, that what Bill was doing was live editing. When I was in college, I thought that I wanted to go the editing route. That's the part of the filmmaking process that was the most interesting to me and the part that sort of drew me in. And I saw what he was verbally doing was live editing. He was taking, you know, 20 shots and splicing them together in real time, telling a story. Um, and it was really taking all of the filmmaking and storytelling tools that I learned in school and applying them to a product that I was already so familiar with, which is baseball. Um, and it really was the mesh of both worlds that brought me to this place of like a light bulb moment in that truck that during that summer of 2009. And I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And, through an internship and eventually becoming a production assistant and then associate producer and associate director, kind of worked my way up. Unfortunately, Bill passed away in 2017. And in 2019, I was named lead director of the Mets broadcast on SMY. And it's been such a fulfilling uh, job to have and to get to apply myself creatively and storytell within a medium that doesn't necessarily hasn't always lent itself to that.
So, I have so many questions. I think part of this talk is not only to talk about the relationship between film and baseball and all this, and we'll get to all that and how it is to direct a game. But one of the things is also about giving helping students navigate the job market career. did when you applied for the SNY job internship,
Mhm.
did you have a lot of previous experience in anything related? How much did you know about um, TV or film, or I guess like what was on your resume at that time?
Sure. No. I had no experience. I had none at all. I played baseball in college too, so I was totally enveloped by baseball 24/7. And so obviously I was involved in the film program and student film festivals and stuff like that. And I did a couple things, obviously projects for school, for class, but I didn't have a reel. I didn't have like something I can hand somebody. This is what I've done. Um, I applied to the internship, and I guess the best advice would give somebody is to be very eager and show how important that this internship would be to you. Um, I was just on them from the moment that I sent the resume, checking with them, checking back. I mean, it could have been misconstrued as annoying, but I speaking to the people that hired me after the fact. This is 17 years later. Um, the lady that I interviewed with was like, I remember when they handed me your resume and I was already full, and the lady that handed me this resume, like they were like, we have this sweet kid in North Carolina who's a big Mets fan. He plays baseball. All he wants to do is to come to New York for the summer and be a part of something to do with Mets baseball. Can you just have him come up for an interview? And you know he's really really excited. That's the way that she sold it. And I was very, very excited. And I bought my first suit and went to New York for an interview and um, spent my life savings that summer to be there. So it was a lot of sacrifice, and it was a lot of eagerness and excitement, and um, bringing that to the table because it translates. Like I've had dozens and dozens of interns at this point, and pretty pretty quickly who's there to just put it on their resume and who is there to thrive. And we've had a lot of interns come through that have thrived. We have 4 production positions, with me, our producer Greg Picker, our associate director Eddie Warman, and Tom Rockland, our associate producer. Tom Rockland's another former intern, and when Tom interned, you knew right away that he was there. He meant business. He was there. He was taking the initiative. He was going the extra mile. He was losing sleep and showing a work ethic like you need to do this job that's every single day. Um, and so it was a lot of that. It was I remember during my internship, um, there was, at the time, it was before interns got paid. So there was a bigger intern class. There was like 8 or 9 interns within that remote operations group, and you had to split the time at the truck with all the other interns. I told my manager, I said, listen, I spent my life savings to be here. Uh, I don't know anybody here. I'm going to be at Citi Field every single day, whether you like it or not, basically. And I did every single home game during the summer of 2009. I was there, whether I was scheduled or not, because it was a magical place. And it was something that I knew. I had no doubt in my mind that this is where I was going to be. And I almost feel like you need that attitude, whether it works out or not, in anything you try, whether it's in filmmaking, applying to a job, a school, anything. You need to know that that's where you're going to be.
Yeah. A quick question for the people watching. Where can people find those job listings? Are they
That's
on
a that's a good question. I think it's SNYTV
Mhm.
dot slash jobs. I think
We'll put
that's
it
it.
we'll put it here.
Double check me on that. But SMY.TV, if you navigate to the job section, they have, obviously all the jobs listing. listed, but also all the internship departments.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
highly recommend.
Yes. Um, so you after your internship, did you go straight into a job or did you like at SNY or was there some other time before?
So after the internship, during the summer of 2009, I had one more semester of school. So I went back to school. I graduated in December. I'd been in touch with the people at SNY, and they invited me down to spring training in February, March of 2010. So 3 months after I graduated, I went down to spring training as a basic tryout for if this guy can do the entry level job. And in this profession, the entry level job is more times than not the production assistant, associate producer, who does the graphics, all the on air stats and um, full screen boards and batter graphics. That all comes from the AP or PA. And so, long story short, they liked what I did in
The
spring. I'm
even
sorry.
the pitch animation, does that come?
Yes, exactly. That comes from our brilliant graphics designer Dave Burke, who comes up with all that fun stuff and is just part of one of the real big cogs in our
Oh,
wheel at
who's the
SNY.
player? Who's the player?
Lou
Lou
Brock.
Brock.
Yeah. Every time Keith brings up Lou Brock, which is often, we have a graphic that flies on that says Lou Brock and has a little sing-songy tune to it. So yeah, so that I did graphics during spring training and was hired as the um, fill-in graphics coordinator PA position for the 2010 Mets season. I did about 40 games, and when I wasn't doing games, I was in the studio doing graphics for pregame, postgame, Geico Sports Night, all of the other shows on SMY. So it was a really good learning experience for me to do a few other things and while doing the Mets on a fill-in basis. And a couple years later, I was eventually promoted to full-time graphics coordinator, then worked my way up to where I am now.
Yeah. So what was it like when you got that job as Mets director? What was that like? And then uh I guess this is sort of like an add-on question, but like uh when did you sort of like discover your style? You have obviously a very unique style in how you
Mm-hmm.
direct, very experimental as people have called it. Um like when did this sort of dawn on you of like, oh, like when like I could sort of get a little funky with it, I guess.
Well, I was obviously thrilled when I got the job. So there was a director. So Bill Webb, the great Bill Webb, passed away in 2017. But during the 2018 and 2019 season, we had somebody ahead of me that was kind of ahead of me in the pecking order. So he got the job as the lead director. Fortunately for me, and fortunately I think for most Met fans, he left to go to the Yankees, and so he's now the Yankees director.
Oh,
Um, which opened up the door for me, little old me, in the off season of 2019 to be promoted to the lead director. Um, and I'm so grateful. I was so grateful for the opportunity. Um, but at the same time, I once I got my feet wet a little bit, I really wanted to start making the broadcast what I always thought it could be. And it kind of goes back to Bill Webb, and I keep saying Bill Webb because he was such a big important part of who I am as a director. He did the World Series for 25 plus seasons, and he all-star games. The first director at SMY, and he is who I was like a leech to from the moment I got this job. And because he was able to tell a story, cover the X's and O's, but he embellished the broadcast, not necessarily in the same ways that I do, um, but he was the first director to really um, to elevate a moment with shots that aren't necessarily just the action.
right.
Um, the tight shot of Andy Pettitte in the World Series looking over his glove where it's just his eyes, a shot of a woman in the stands holding a rosary in a tense moment, um, Kurt Schilling's bloody sock in the World Series. Like those are all moments that are happening on the peripheral of the game that Bill incorporated into the game broadcast to elevate moments. And Bill wasn't a cinephile or a big movie guy, but what he was doing and that I was aware of was incorporating cinema language into the game broadcast. And baseball lends itself more so than other sports to these moments because you need moments of stillness in order to elevate, to implement some of these devices, which Bill did, and I've sort of kind of run with. So that would be the beginning. I mean, in this job, you have to speak baseball first. Like that is the ground level. Like you have to make sure you cover the game. But once you cover the game and you surround yourself with enough talented people on the crew, you're able to take more chances. And that's sort of kind of started for me in 2022. During my, I guess it would be, the COVID season, 2021. Yeah, so it would be my third season. I really started to take more chances. And we've really built something on the broadcast, that, it's not just the three guys in the booth who are spectacular, Gary, Keith, and Ron. It's our production group has really made a name for itself as part of that best broadcast in baseball, I think. And I think it's because of the way that our group elevates the run of the mill baseball action.
Yeah. So, uh, yeah. So tell us about your love of film, and now we're gonna get to like 2022 era. Um, for those who don't know, I remember that that it was getting like I always noticed when I was watching games ever since I was a kid that I don't know, I was just very aware from an early age that like this was being directed, and this like most kids don't think about it. It's just a baseball game, but it's like, what's shown on TV is very important. I remember the first thing I noticed was how broadcasts always cut when someone would like there would be a runner on second, someone would hit a single, and then the broadcast would, go show the right fielder, cut to the runner running, and then cut to the plate. But you didn't see the throw. And then it's like the broadcaster is like, what an amazing throw from blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I didn't see the throw. And then there was this YouTube compilation that was like, brought shots of really long throws gunning down runners that like zoom out and show the throw, because when you see the ball travel through the air and hit the exact spot, it's like, oh my God, it's like it's a and you've done something this season where you have the runner and the ball, so you can
Mm-hmm.
do both, which is very cool. Um, so when so the question is, um, tell us about your love of cinema and how that is and how that is incorporated into the shots.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, I've loved movies since I was a kid. I was, obsessed with movies. I had a VHS closet that was like, so like my dad and my mom built this collection of movies where I was able to go in and pull my favorite movies and watch them over and over again. And I grew up in the Blockbuster and mom and pop video rental era. So every Friday we'd go to them to rent three or four movies for the weekend, and you'd blow through those. You'd watch them three or four times sometimes, and by the time you return them on Sunday night or Monday, you could have watched 10, you could have been in front of the TV all for 10 plus hours.
Yeah.
So it was always a big part of my life. Watching film, collecting film. Um, then once I got to school, learning the foundational, aspects when it came to film, not only film production, but history and theory and, screenwriting and, every possible, facet that comes to, you know, filmmaking. And so it's always been so important to me. And, it's, I like to think of it as, obviously I've done specific film homage and throughout the years, whether it be Kill Bill or westerns in general, or Planet of the Apes, or I've done a handful of I've yeah I've done a bunch of specific film homage, and those are fun. But I try to make every cut that I take with cinematic intention. I the foundational knowledge of film and the foundational knowledge of baseball is sort of the bedrock of every cut that I take. Um, there are ways that baseball has been broadcast for 75, 80 years that you're just supposed to do, and there's the ABCs of how to direct a baseball game, and those ways are great, and they're gonna convey the images, and tell the stories to the folks at home just fine. There's an old adage in this business that if you're doing your job correctly, like you said, the images just sort of roll over the viewers at home, and they don't know that they're watching a produced event.
Yeah.
They're just watching the ball game. I don't necessarily buy into that philosophy, especially in a world where attention spans are shrinking, and baseball is becoming a second screen experience for a lot of people. And so I tell our crew, and I urge our crew to take a lot of chances and really try to jar the viewer out of their seat when we can. That can come with a graphic, that can come with an interesting shot in the crowd, that can come with a cool split screen. Show the viewers at home something that they're not used to seeing, and it will not only elevate the moment, it's a way of reminding people to, hey, pay attention. Like, there's some downtime right now in this game, but you should be looking at this. Like, this is an important moment. Um, and I, for our home broadcasts, which is where we do the bulk of the bells and whistles, because our crew is so talented. Um, those home broadcasts, those 81 games, are we kind of view it as a playground. We're not going to miss anything when it comes to the action, but it's our time to really push this medium to heights that you know have never been you know tested before, or try to elevate a game that I think is so great to a level that people aren't used to at home. And it's not going to be for everybody. And everything that I do or we do as a group's not going to be for everybody, but it's for somebody. And you try to entertain and give everybody something, whether it's somebody that's been watching baseball for 50 years and they appreciate a good Keith Hernandez retelling of a story about Lou Brock, or somebody like yourself who may appreciate a cinematic homage or a cool split screen, or a rack focus from the pitcher to the batter to build tension. So you're trying to serve many audiences, basically.
Yeah. So, some of the shots that you've done, those homages or whatever, I think one of the most recognizable things or shots that you've done is the Diaz coming out of the bullpen, starting in black and white and coming out into color. With that and with other shots, how much preparation goes into those shots in particular and just the game in general? Uh, do you ever just the other night, when Lindor hit his home run, you posted the video on Twitter of the control room. You yelled "thrash," and it was a great moment to, he hits his home run and you zoom in on him as he pimps it. How much of the everyday and how much of the experimental shots is pre-planned and how much planning goes into it?
So you try to put as many different things in your tool belt as you can. Um, I have a great relationship with our technical director. The technical director is the person who sits beside me to my right. I watch the monitor wall in front of me. The technical director sits to my right, and he has a board in front of him with all of the cameras, all of the replays, all of the effects, all of the cool bells and whistles that we can implement at any time, whether it be a split screen or you brought up, when I slide the runner over, showing him score rather than making that cut. He has all of those tools in front of them, and they all have a name and they all have a code name. And I give him as much heads up as I can, um, but it's not always super pre-planned. You can't force something that's not there. Sometimes the moment dictates, and you really have to be. You have to put yourself in a position to one have the confidence in your crew to execute a risky machination of whatever it is we're trying to do, um, not miss anything, but also embellish the moment. And so it's a slippery slope, but it's really about trust. It's trust in yourself, knowing the game, knowing the people around you are all striving toward the same goal. Trusting the announcers to be able to handle whatever we throw at them. A lot of the stuff wouldn't fly on other broadcasts because announcers aren't comfortable with it. Our guys in the booth not only are able to handle whatever we throw at them, they elevate it. They take what we're doing and they speak our language and they know what we're trying to do. And it's a really good tug of war between the booth and the truck. And we're all trying to get to the same place. And those guys really have always had my back when it comes to this stuff. But I would say that the number one thing is it is trust. It's knowing that if I call for a crash, that not only can the camera operator handle it, the guy on the camera, but that it's not going to overshadow the moment because it's risky to do that. You have to have the right kind of home run to crash. Like you have to have a non-line drive. The ball has to be a high arcing fly ball. It's got to be a no doubter. The guy's got to stay in the box for an extended period of time. You really have to feel it. It's got to be a moment. We've gotten lucky the last few years with 2 or 3 moments where it's really paid off, and I think has elevated the moment to a more dramatic experience for the viewers at home. So it's a combination of a lot of things. Obviously, when we do something like a few years ago when we did Buck Showalter, when we turned his face red as an homage to Kill Bill, that takes a lot of pre-planning. Like that takes all right, this is what I want to do. Sitting down with the TD, having the effect ready, waiting for the right moment to happen, and then deploying it. It's some things take more pre-planning than others, but a lot of it is instincts and knowing what works in real time too.
Yeah. I mean personally I think that you've definitely succeeded, and I think that I mean honestly the crash specifically, this like quick, for those who don't know, the quick zoom in on him as he pimps the home run. I mean this is kind of exactly what you want in a game, to be entertained and to be just like to have the emotion of the game and the players reflected in the TV. Um, so my next question is, uh, what's an unexpected problem or issue that like like it's very niche, no one knows about it, and it's like you run into it a lot as the director of the Mets.
Huh. Well, so we do all of our games from a mobile unit. It's a literal truck. It's drives down the road and then it parks at a ballpark, and it like a transformer, it expands into this television studio. So with that, sometimes, especially on the road when we're not in our home trucks, we have one truck that does all of our home games. you come across technical issues, audio
The
issues, and
microphone the other night.
the microphone the other night. We're in the middle of a transition from one analog audio system to um, more of an IP driven audio system, and with that comes a few gremlins now and then. And so uh, it's stuff like that I'm not necessarily an expert in, that is out of your control, and you have to sometimes um, change the way you do things because the technology is either um, not functioning correctly, or and especially on the road, and this is no fault of the road operators. When you're on the road, you're working with a crew that doesn't know the ins and outs of your show.
I was
And
going to ask you about Sacramento,
mhm.
how difficult that was.
Yeah, and so you're with very competent technicians, but they may not be necessarily used to the way that we do baseball, or the speed at which we're able to process information and make it happen on the screen. And so on the road, you have to slow down a little bit. You have to take fewer chances. You have to really become more of a traditional baseball broadcast when it comes to the embellishment and whatnot. And so that's a challenge for me, because I want to go full speed ahead every game, and I have so many ideas, and I want them all on the screen, and I want the viewing experience on the road to not be a big as big a valley as it feels like to me sometimes. Um, yeah, working in Sacramento, it's a minor league ballpark. Um,
For
it
those
was
who
only
don't know, the
Yeah,
Oakland Athletics are moving to Las Vegas, and for how long are they going to be there? The next
uh,
8 years?
next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I don't know. I don't think they know.
Yeah, they're going to be in a minor league ballpark, which as John, I assume is going to tell us is much different than a major league ballpark.
Yeah, and so yet you have camera positions that are not ideal. I mean, it's a minor league ballpark. It wasn't built for television. So, our high home camera was so low there that any ball hit to the right field or left field corners, not even corners, like fair territory,
Yeah.
you lose the ball. And so you had to cut to the mid cameras. And so you're just doing a dance that you're not used to doing necessarily. Like, the game is still the same. It's still 90 feet. The mound is still 60 feet, 6 inches, but the facilities are different. And, part of the big league look is shooting wide and showing off the cavernous walls of a big league ballpark. And that didn't exist there. I mean, I got to tell you, it was a unique experience to do a game in that environment. Obviously, I've done spring training before, but to shoot a regular season game in an environment like that was unique. And you kind of take the good with the bad. They had a wire cam that they used there that was super cool. That was so low because obviously there's no cavernous walls. And so you really felt like you were right on top of the field with that camera angle that they have on the A's broadcast. So I took advantage of that as much as I could. You find ways to take the situation you're given and make the best of it. And we really tried to play up the intimacy of the ballpark and the fan experience, and being a fan at a major league game and being that close to the field. And we tried to approach it from that aspect rather than focusing on the detriments of doing a
Yeah.
big league broadcast in a minor league ballpark.
Yeah. Um, all right. So the next couple questions, I guess, are just like very unique, like just like random things I've always wondered.
Sure.
Um, so first of all, what is it like to be what first tell me what was the first time you met Gary, Keith, and Ron, and how has that relationship been? And also, are you the one like do you ever talk to them during the game?
Yes. Okay. So meeting Gary, Keith, and Ron. Um, so I am 37 years old. I never saw Keith or Ronnie play. So I only knew them from television. So I wasn't exactly starstruck when I met them. Um, my dad was more starstruck than anybody because he watched them play. He still thinks it's really cool. Like, I get to hang out with Keith and Ron. Like, that's like neat for him. Um, no, they were super cool from my internship on. And they've always sort of embraced the strange quirks of what I bring to a show, whether it's when I was in graphics, I did a lot of unique things. And when I was the AD, I did some very strange like roll-ins. Like on Friday the 13th of 2015 or 16, I did all of the Jasons who ever played for the Mets. And I finished with Jason Vargas and put a Jason mask on him from Friday the 13th. And like that's the stuff like that, like we don't show them in advance. We just throw it at them, and we get their reaction in real time. And more times than not, it's really really good, and they laugh or they get what I'm trying to do, and they embrace my quirkiness. And they have from day one. It's such a weapon for me to have those three guys in the booth, because like I said, they're able to handle anything we throw at them. And it's such an asset to have a group of guys that smart, able to process in real time the things that we're throwing at them, whether it be a stat or a replay or a video package or a cool split screen or effect, whatever it may be. They're able to process it and convey it to the audience in a way that is informative and also entertaining. Um, um, Whether I talk to them in game, I do, but that's more of our producer's job, Greg Picker, to sort of mold the themes of the broadcast and be in contact with the announcers in the booth, letting them know when we're in and out of commercial and when we're getting to replay and what to look for in a specific replay, or you know shaping the broadcast. The way that Greg likes to explain it is that the producer position is more of the coach and the director is more of the quarterback. And so we have that sort of relationship when it comes to working together, because it really is it's a 50-50 split when it comes to the creative aspects of the broadcast. And Greg has been the producer since day one at SMY and has had a long career at ESPN and USA Network, and quite frankly belongs in the Broadcast Hall of Fame one day for what he's accomplished here at SMY. And so between the booth and Greg as a collaborator, there's really not a lot of things that we're going to miss as a broadcast team. We really have our bases covered.
So Greg is in the booth, is in the truck with you?
Yeah, so the whole front row of the truck is to my left is the producer Greg Picker, and to my right is the technical director that I brought up before. His name is Seth Zwiebel, and we are sort of we're in the Han Solo Chewbacca position of the Millennium Falcon, and so we all work in tandem together. And when the wheels are really turning, we're in a big moment, and those cogs are clicking. It's really a special sort of team that we have.
Mhm. Very random question. I've always wondered this. Sometimes I see you doing this where you're on a shot of something, or it could not really be anything where there's like a tangent of any kind. Keith is telling a story. There's you're in or spring training or wherever, you're on a random there's a couple, maybe the guy is like, being whatever, or you know whatever it is. There's some tangent. It's non-baseball related. Uh, is are those usually encouraged, or like sometimes you can see like there's maybe like a joke brewing in the booth? Like, I guess this is really more a question for Greg, but are you necessarily supportive of like, the whatever thing it is, or are you scared that it's just going to go to an inappropriate route, or what? Um, you know.
No, for me, there's the game, but equally as important is everything around the game. It's the fans in the stands. It's the guy eating a hot dog that spills on his shirt. The kid eating ice cream and making a mess. The kid with sticky fingers with cotton candy that repulses Keith. Like I know the triggers that I need to hit to get Keith going or Gary going, or that's kind of the beautiful thing of what we do. Like baseball with the downtime between pitches. There's less now with the pitch clock. Um, but with that downtime, it lends itself to not only telling the stories on the field, but the stories around the field. The hot dog vendors, the guys in the scoreboard at Fenway and Wrigley Field, like um, the grounds crew between innings working on a wet mound. Like there were so many little mini stories to tell. The guy that catches the home run or the foul ball in the stands and hands it to a kid. I
Oh,
mean, there are so many opportunities to move the viewer, whether it be funny, uh, tears, a moving moment where just the other day we had a Met make his major league debut and his parents were in the stands, and
oh yeah.
you show the mom and dad their attention because everybody can relate to that. The more human emotion and human moments that you can convey to the viewers watching at home, the better the product's going to be. As baseball becomes more and more mechanized with automatic strike zones and challenges and all of these and pitch calm, all of these things that are becoming a bit robotic and mechanized. Not to be dramatic, but it's taking away a lot of the humanity of the game. Like the game is poetry. It's not basketball. It's not football or hockey. It's a slow sport. It's a game meant to be watched with a hot dog and a beer, and a game meant to be consumed in a leisurely fashion. Um, and anytime you can put more humanity into the broadcast um, and move the viewers, that is the ultimate goal. I mean, you can't. It's people aren't tuning in just to watch and see if the Mets win or lose. I really believe that. Um, the Mets have not won a World Series in my lifetime. I was born in 1987. Their last championship is 1986. Doesn't take away any of my enjoyment from watching and being a part of now the Mets experience. It's not about winning. It's about having us come into your homes every night at 7 o'clock to entertain, to educate, and to move you. And I take that job very seriously every single day.
Yeah. I view I I view viewing Mets games as like a very holy religious thing. Um uh I always say it's like bad luck if I'm not watching. Sometimes it's literally true. The other night it wasn't true because they were very good and I wasn't watching. But sometimes I'll like have a night where, I was late to the game, they're losing. I turn it on, they start winning. I'm like, what, like, I need to watch SNY or like whatever it is. Like like this is bad luck to not watch the Mets. So it's like it's very I have a friend who has the opposite, who was like, oh, but anyway, I like to, but we all love, I think everyone, who I talk to, we love it. We love
I know. You know what I really like is that there's not Mets haven't had a banner hung in 39 years,
Mhm.
but Met fans are very proud of their broadcast.
Yeah.
They're proud of their booth.
It's the best
They're
booth in baseball.
yeah, they're proud of the product that they get to experience every night because it is better than everybody else's. And that's a real point of pride for Mets fans. And I don't want that to ever slip, you know?
I I think as long as you guys are around, it's I think it'll stay. I mean, that's really it's the heart of like the whole Mets thing. I guess I'll skip to this question because I guess we're on the subject right now. I wanted to talk to you about the team, about the New York Mets, Metropolitans. Um, Something I feel like there's nothing more emblematic of the Mets than the season last year. There is nothing more Mets than the 2024 Mets. That is the most Mets the Mets have been since the 1969. I have to say also, your direction of that season was great. Your storytelling, having them start 0-5 and then struggle, and then the storytelling of them coming back and making the postseason and the character development of Mark Vientos, it was great direction, John.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of fun for me to be a part of that team specifically because there were so many threads throughout the season. There was the poor start, and then they move Lindor to the leadoff position, and then Grimace comes, and all of these sort of Mets talisman or good luck charms that came throughout the year. And they became characters in our show that we put in every night. And I'm very plugged into like Mets pop culture and social media, and I know who the characters are, on there. And so I was readily available to them. So like when this is going to sound very strange to anybody that wasn't locked into the Mets last season, but when the Rally Pimp or Glizzy Iggy or the OMG sign guy
The little
DMs me,
kid in the Grimace costume going
yes,
crazy at Nationals Park or whatever it was.
yes, yes. And so like those people like let me know where they're sitting, and so like I'm able to deploy like them whenever I see fit. Just last night,
Yeah, I
the
saw.
Rally Pimp texted me that he was going to be at the game, and so I took a shot at him when a two strike count when in a big moment with Tyler McGill pitching on the mound, and he's doing his juju fingers. And so I take the shot, and then I do a slow dissolve to camera 4 and strike 3, and then you get the reaction. It's just like it's those little moments and those little almost Easter eggs for the real fans that I get a real kick out of too. That can really help with not just the storyline for a single game, but the storyline for an entire season.
Yeah. So the thing so the question about this, so like, yeah, what is your opinion of the team, like strictly of the New York Mets of this season? Like, they've had a very iffy year. They've had some ups, some like weird, they've had like weird bursts of like offensive slumps, yet like winning, and the bullpen has been great, but like when Juan Soto is like good, but he's not, Juan Soto yet.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see from this team?
I think when you got the spring training, you looked at the depth on the pitching staff, and you were a little
Okay.
concerned. I was concerned, but I've been totally wrong. The pitching staff has been the best in baseball. It's kept them afloat. Not only kept them afloat, they've thrived with this pitching staff despite some inconsistent hitting to start the year. But Alonso's been incredible since day one. Lindor has come around and he's been off the charts recently. And Soto will hit. He'll eventually get there. He's not going to be where he's at all season. And as of this recording, the Mets are tied for the best record in baseball. So there's really nothing to complain about when it comes to Mets baseball in 2025. The ballpark is packed. That makes the product at home for the viewers watching at home a better experience. There's nothing like doing a game with a packed house. As much as I would love people to stay home and watch the game on TV, obviously, the pictures when the place is packed are so much more exciting and engaging for the folks at home. And there's so many more things we can do with a packed house. When we go to Miami and there's 7,000 people there, it's hard to really build tension. You really have to change your philosophy when it comes to confrontation. The big wide shots don't have the impact that they do when the house is packed. So you really have to adjust your philosophy when it comes to telling stories and building tension.
Yeah. Coincidentally enough, I am going to the game tonight. It's like college night or something, and I was like, oh, okay, yes, I got.
Awesome. I'll be there too.
Yeah, it's an all around amazing experience. So we're nearing the end. So I'm just gonna ask you a couple of very quick short answer questions.
Sure.
I guess this relates to what we were just talking about, but what is your impression? I mean, I can imagine what your answer is, but what is your impression of the owner, Steve Cohen, and his tenure here now in his fifth year? fifth year, I believe.
Great,
Sixth.
great. He's built a foundation of really, really smart people around him, and that trickles down to the rest of the organization. Um, there's some really, really talented people in place that he's put there to make the really tough decisions, and the team is all the better for it, and the results are on the field.
Yeah. I heard from a little birdie, aka the broadcasters, that you hate the wave.
Yes.
Why?
Listen, I don't necessarily hate the wave, but the wave is for the people. The wave is for the people that are bored at the game. And
Oh,
baseball's not boring. Baseball is a sport meant to be watched and engaged with. And the wave goes against every single philosophy that I have on the subject. The wave is the equivalent of having the baseball game on in the background while you're doing something else. That's how I view the wave. The same way we don't show fans that storm the field that to run around the outfield and get tackled by security. We don't show that live because we don't want to encourage that behavior. I don't show the wave because I don't want to encourage that behavior.
okay. I mean, this is the thing. Generally I agree that it's not. Sometimes I'm confused by the wave when it's like a close game, and I'm like, it's a close game. Why aren't you?
Yeah,
Why are you going like this? It's like tied. I think the other night, like the game got tied, or they were doing the wave, and then the game, we were losing by like we were winning by two, and then they tied it up, and I was like, guys, guys, and then they stopped doing the wave, and I was like, hmm. But generally, I am not against the wave if it's like 10-0 in the eighth or seventh inning. Like
true,
it's
true.
let them, it's gonna be hard to like find something interesting
You
watching
can do
the
you
game
can you
on
can do the
TV.
way you can do the wave when it's 10-0, okay? But I'm still not showing.
Okay, fine. All right. So the other question I have, oh yes, very random. How exactly, I've always wondered this, how exactly does the replay work? Because, in my mind as just like a film person, you know, if I want to watch a replay of something I just directed, it's like, I have to go over there and we have to start and and this is a live thing. So is there, how in the world is like a replay work?
Sure, yeah. So all of our cameras, and there's 20 of them at home, are being recorded into uh, these things called EVSs, which are very fancy DVRs. And each EVS can record up to four cameras. And depending on the play and the looks, those operators that are operating those replay machines know what to queue up. Obviously, the swing and the initial ball leaving, that's an easy thing to queue. But when you get into the minutia of what we're trying to convey to the folks at home, you have to have really smart people in place. And Greg Picker, our producer, is the one that um, tells me the sequence and cues the replays to the correct spots. And so once the live action is over, I'll look to Greg and he'll be like, "Y," and I'll be ready, wipe Y, roll Y, wipe. And then he'll say blue, and I'll say, ready, dissolve blue, dissolve blue. And so he'll walk me through the replay sequence. So um, I don't, I only have to worry about the live action. And that is a relief to me. And so Greg handles all the replays, I handle the live action, and we work in tandem when it comes to that. It's kind of like, you know, I'll see things live that I might pick out in the back of my brain. Oh, that'll be a good replay later. I just saw a good reaction in the dugout
Yeah.
from camera 8, and I'll look up at the clock and see what time it was, so that they can go back and replay and grab it. And so once we get through the sequence, if Greg missed something, I'll be like, "Hey, on B, look at this time code and see if there's anything there." And we can always go back. That's the great thing about replay. It's like we could always go back. There's live, which is, I feel, the most impactful for the folks watching at home. But with replay, you can go back anytime. It's become a little more challenging with the pitch clock and less time between pitches and our extended commercial format, which I hate. but there is usually time to always revisit.
Yeah. This is a fun question. What is your favorite? This you can have two answers for this. Like, what's your favorite like Mets moment of all time? And also like, what's your favorite shot or moment that you've directed?
My favorite Mets moment of all time. So, like I said, I was born in 1987, and so 1999, I would have been 12 years old. Um, Robin Ventura's grand slam single against the Braves, that would be a big one. There's Mike Piazza's go-ahead home run against the Braves, and I think it was a 10-run eighth in the bottom of the eighth inning. The Mets came back; they were down by 8 or 9 runs, and Piazza put them ahead. There's Piazza's home run after 9/11. That's sort of the prime range of my fanhood because that's from early teen to early teens to mid teens, and so those are the moments that stand out as some of my favorite Mets moments of all time. Um, my favorite moment that I've done as a director. Um, I really love the Jacob DeGrom Simple Man when he had made his first home start after being on the injured list. That's a big moment. Um, but I always go back to the most meaningful moment in my directing life, which was probably one of the first moments. Um, so Bill Webb, his last game was on the road in San Francisco in 2016. Um, he was going through chemo and had been ill and knew that this was going to be his last game of the season because he had to go through more therapy and was just unwell to do the job. This was probably in August of 2016, I think. Um, in the sixth inning of that game, I was in, I think I was in either in graphics or in tape. I don't remember. He said, "Johnny, come on up and finish up the game." And he let me direct the last three
Wow.
innings of that broadcast, and that was the last game that he ever did for SNY because he passed away in March of the following year. And so that is certainly the most meaningful. Um, I don't remember what happened in the game, and it doesn't really matter. That's the most meaningful thing that I've directed was being able to finish his last game.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's what I like to go back to.
Yeah. That's wow. Um I think we'll end it there. I think we'll I mean that's I don't know. I think that's I think we covered everything. So I just want to thank you again. Thank you so much, John DeMarsico. Uh I can't wait to go to the game tonight. I can't wait to like watch all the games for my entire life. Um and I can't wait to to um yeah, like just like see what more there is in store, especially and I'm sure I can't like this will be helpful for students and I'm very grateful. So thank you so much.
I hope so. And if you need me, I'm just a DM away. I try to answer all of my messages on there. So look me up on Twitter, X, whatever your choice, Blue Sky, and send me a message if you need advice, help with anything. Let me know.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.